What do you suggest for someone who isn't patient with their goals, Eddie? I would suggest that you need to appreciate that it's like life is a series of moving from point A to point B, and the moment you arrive at point B, it becomes point A anyway, and you get a new point B. So there's always going to be this gap between what you want and who you are. So as you get closer towards your goals, the goals aren't going to serve the same amount of relevance. And so when you remember the goals are just energy to drive you to do a certain behavior, those goals are going to shift away from you, so you're constantly chasing it anyway. So I would redefine the concept of I'm frustrated because I'm not getting to my goal, and instead start to show some appreciation and gratitude for what the goal is doing for me, because that frustration is a positive because it's building some growth for you. And so you're always going to have that feeling. There's a great quote that says successful people never feel successful, and maybe that's why they're successful. They're striving for more all the time. So there you go, Eddie. What does this business model mean for growth as a team? Our business model means that the only way that growth occurs is if you do the right thing by your team. So we run a win-win model, which means, as it should always mean, being successful yourself means you've created success for somebody else. So as our mantra has been of late, which is stop trying to be successful and just try to be useful. And if you're useful to people, you'll naturally build a sense of community around you because of the usefulness that you bring to them. So what does it mean? It means provide win-win outcomes for other people. What are the best educational programs out there? That's a very broad question. The best educational programs are the ones that are relevant to you. The mistake people make is they will, when they network about anything, whether it be about educational programs or anything else, is the answer that they get from the other person is based on what's relevant to that person. And so relevance is an individual thing. So, for example, maybe you're a reader. That doesn't mean that everybody else should read, because somebody else might have a different learning style or take on things. So whenever you're trying to find the best of something, it's the best for you. And once again, which is why comparisons aren't a healthy thing to do. What I would say is that education needs to sit in sections, and that you should pick categories that you want to improve on in your life, and then find the best things in those categories. So who is a great mentor for you financially might not be a great mentor in the category of family or relationships or leadership or business or coaching or attitudinal things. So I think mentors should be siphoned off into different categories when you go chasing that information. Imogen. Wazza, what would you tell your younger self if you could go back? I'm pretty young now, Wazza. I would tell myself, my younger self, what would I tell my younger self if you could go back? Oh, maybe not to worry. Maybe that there's more time. Not to compare myself. Not to worry what other people think. I would tell myself that the saying of thoughts become things. That if I can anything that I could see, then I could go and achieve, and that's a real thing. And it probably took me too long to believe in that. So I would learn to believe in fairy tales at a younger age if I could go back, because some amazing things are possible when you believe they are. How do you be your best self when you need to be? I'm guessing this question is, how do you be your best self when you feel like you can't be, but you need to be? By being selfless and by thinking about other people. It's like if you've got the flu, you don't run around sneezing on people, and everyone knows why. That's not the right thing to do, because they might catch the bug or catch the cold. It's a rude thing to do. So because we care about others, we cover our mouth when we cough, and we put our hands over our face when we sneeze, and we wash our hands. It's the same thing for if I'm in a bad mood, or I've got a bad attitude, or I'm dealing with challenges in my personal life. I need to appreciate that if I can be selfless once again and think about those others, that it's not my job to go and share that with everybody else, to take my challenges and put them on others. And so when I think about them and I think about serving them, I know I need to be at my best, because anything that's going on in my life is not their fault, and it's my job, especially as a leader, to be a service person and give my best to others, and stay attractive to them. So selflessness would be how I do that. What are 3 key points you look for in a leader? Zach, what are 3 things I look for? I look for action. My favourite words to tell people when they tell me things is, we'll see. Because I think that watching what people do is far more important than listening to what people say, and follow through is a real challenge for a lot of people. Once there's a great quote which says, "Enthusiasm is common, but commitment is rare." And I think the hype that surrounds achievement or goal setting is very different to the hype that surrounds work ethic and grit and the determination required to actually go and achieve those goals. So I look for real doers, people who get things done and make progress towards their goals. I look for people that react really well. I think that actions and reactions are very different. I think most people know how to act a certain way, whether it be act positive or act motivated or act well-mannered or act a certain way. I think you find people's true character in how they react to challenges, to setbacks, to failures, to defeats, to how fast they bounce back. So bounce back ability is a really important thing for me. We all know that you're going to lose. The best teams in sport still lose some games. How quick do you dust yourself off and bounce back is a very important trait of a leader. And just that ability to think outside of themselves. You can normally hear a good leader when they talk. How many times do they say I versus we or me versus us? Their vocabulary often gives them away. And I think a great leader spends their entire kind of life trying to help other people get them to their goals. And a poor leader tries to use people to get themselves to their own goals. And so I'm looking for selflessness in people. I think that's important in leaders. What are you most proud of about your culture, your work, or your environment? I'm proud that every year we do a survey, and I know last year there's a question on the survey that says use one word to describe my company, and the most common word that we had was family, and that's the word I'm aiming to build, is that people can look at this as so much more than a job or so much more than an income, but really as a sense of community. And I think the best word to describe community is family, and that makes me proud. There's our questions for today.